Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao. In this box is a pair of boots that I just acquired and wanted to showcase to you. Now, the footwear review industry, if you want to call it that, influencing, many would think makes me some money. Actually, I don't monetize my channel, haven't yet at least, and don't really make any money. But occasionally I get a discounted pair from a brand that's up and coming that I really enjoyed. That's what this pair represents. So just getting my bias out of the way, just wanted to tell you about from Crush on Retro. So Crush on Retro hails from China. They build budget Goodyear welted boots. This here is a timber boot that is in their rust leather, which I believe is a local domestic leather that they source probably from Prime Asia or something similar in China. Crush on Retro being a Chinese brand. Say as what you will about Chinese manufacturers, but I've been very impressed with the quality and the craftsmanship here, and it very clearly is a company run with the utilization of high quality artisans who make these pieces of footwear. So as you can see, Crush on Retro doesn't really make a huge effort to dress up their packaging. So these boots are rather affordable, yet you have to factor in that you're going to get some concessions, and that is packaging. You're not going to get a great box from Crush on Retro. So I figured I'd reveal that. And as far as packaging goes, you can see bubble wrap and basically these foam liners. Not really boot bags, but they're kind of boot covers, I guess. So we're going to take these out and dive in to the timber boot. As you can see, a fairly familiar, well considered design that has been made by many a company, probably most famously by Whites in terms of their semi-dress line of footwear. So here we are with this beautiful rust-colored Roughout leather that is available through Crush on Retro's website. I did make one modification to this pair that wasn't obvious on the website, but when I reached out to Bryce, with whom I've worked with in the past, who helped me construct my engineer pairs from them, the 501 and the 601, I requested both stiffeners of the toe and the heel made out of leather. So there's going to be a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more of a nice break-in than, say, something made of celastic or other material to reinforce the toe and the heel. These timber boots, as you can see, are quite reminiscent of the White's semi-dress model in that it has this derby style open channel lacing system. We see 4 eyelets and 2 speed hooks. We see a 270-degree welted construction. I believe this is a double row flat welt. And we see that side stitch that reaches out and across the back heel stay and heel counter and continue on to the other side here. Brass eyelets, flat laces, a contrast stitch to form the outsole stitching, and you can see a Vibram 430 mini lug sole adorning the bottom of this foot with that double row that goes all the way through all of this, because you can see the same pattern of stitching both on the upper and the bottom. Work seems quite clean. The stitching is really nicely done here on the bottom side of the shoe, and you can see the heel is nailed in. We see a curved logger style heel here with a rubber bottom, 2 full layers of leather. One of the things I really like about Crush on Retro is the leathers that they use for their outsoles and their midsoles. You have a wedge here that allows the heel to have a little bit more taper, and then you have your welt followed by a very thick single midsole here. Very handsome boot, as you can see. This Roughout seems like it might be lightly waxed in certain areas, but hard to say. I can see there's a little bit of a kind of almost like a patina forming. It's kind of got a fairly hairy nap, but not too hairy. It's somewhere between traditional Roughout, I would say pretty close to traditional Roughout, and you know suede has a much finer nap or consistency to that nap. This here is definitely a Roughout. Very nicely done. Here we see the other pair, just for your own sake. Just going through, you see tonal stitching that consists of the same color, that rust color, as the upper. I really like that because you see that the light can catch it, but it also kind of hides some of those details to provide a little bit more of an elegant look for more versatile wear. Here we see the last here, which is a slightly rounded, slightly asymmetric last. And in trying these on, these are quite similar to the 55 lasts that I've had from the Pacific Northwest makers, specifically whites. There's quite a bit of arch support built into this sole when you put your feet in it. Yeah, I think it's a really nice option for around $200 to get something that would otherwise cost you $600 and cost about a year's worth of your time to get manufactured. Crush on Retro tends to get their boots out within a month or so, and that's about what it took to get these boots to me from placing my order. There are some things to factor into the outsole stitching. You can see that rolled welt style that is pretty commonly made by whites. That's unique to whites, at least until recently, where I've seen it being made by a few other people. That's a 270-degree rolled welt with the leather folded out and then stitched down. The stitching, I would say, is comparable in terms of the consistency of stitching of what I've seen from whites. It's not perfect. You can see some issues here, some inconsistencies, some irregularities to the stitching, but definitely very well secured. Some of that stitching gets buried here in the Roughout, so it's definitely not perfect work done. For the aesthetic that I'm going for, which is a little bit more of a rugged look, it's entirely reasonable. You can see that folded over leather gets cut here and similarly cut somewhere in here. It's a more noticeable cut right there where that leather is obviously folded out, and then it seems to be cut back over here a little bit irregularly just above that midsole. So just a little bit of funkiness to that outsole stitching. But again, for 200 bucks with a leather heel and toe stiffener, which is a slight upcharge. I believe it's an $80 upcharge. So this was closer to $300, but I got these discounted because I've worked with Crush on Retro a bunch. You're still getting a really good deal. If I were to even look for a pair of whites in good condition semi-dress models on the used market, I would be paying at least $150 to $200 more based on current 2025 prices. Seems like it could survive a workplace, especially if you decided to reinforce with like a metal toe stiffener, but I went with leather. It's still really stiff, but pliant in the way that I like things to be. And similarly, the heel here has a little bit of pliance to it. It's not too soft and it's not too stiff. It should break in nicely over time. Crush on Retro has become one of my favorite budget brands. I just think they do a really nice job with overall execution of their efforts. The stitching is really cleanly done on the uppers. Whoever is doing the work on their upper stitching is doing a wonderful job. You can see the eyelets are protected in back. They're nicely cleanly done. These speed hooks are essentially eyelets with the speed hook portion added on, so I'm guessing it would be pretty easy to take these off. The inside of these shoes, just so you see, here's the smooth side, I believe, of that leather. And you see the collar, which is a raw-edged collar here, is a double layer of leather, but then it's unlined through the shaft and through the bottom. And then you have a half leather liner there, and you can see some packaging on the inside. This tongue material is nicely stiff, similar in thickness to certainly this leather here, so should break in nicely. Semi-gusseted tongue, you can see the gusseting right there, so should lend itself to some waterproofing capabilities along with this double row stitching. Feels like high quality CF Stead like leather, not quite the Janus suede. Obviously it's a Roughout, but it has a similar type of hand feel in terms of quality. They do come actually with a pair of spare leather laces, so I'll probably swap these flat laces out for leather laces because I tend to like the leather to adorn these. So you can see that will match up rather nicely aesthetically with this rust and the edge dressing, which is this mid to dark brown edge dressing with the black rubber, should all blend rather well aesthetically. So just wanted to show you this Crush on Retro timber boot. Give these guys a try. Honestly, they, I think, are representing one of the best values in footwear currently available, and they are making really high quality footwear using nice lasts across a wide range of styles. Reasons to maybe consider otherwise would be to say, well, maybe they're pretty close to copying the White's semi-dress model, so you might want to support White's, obviously, if you choose to see the world in those manners. It's totally cool, I get that. But there are many models similar to this, and there are some variations from White's in terms of the type of sole, the type of way that leather and heel block are constructed. There's obviously some changes in the eyelets, but overall it seems like Crush on Retro is definitely going for that vibe. I wouldn't say that they're a brand that would be typically accused of copying others, but they do have some models that are pretty popular styles that they have their own take on, but their takes are similar to popular other takes. So just factor all that in. I'm a very fond follower of Crush on Retro. I have now 3 pairs ordered from them. I did sell one of my engineers, but I have the other, their 601 engineer, still in my closet after about a year. Find it to be a really nice, rugged engineer, and I think I'm going to really enjoy this as well. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.